Welcome to Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest is Bill Emmerson. Mr. Emmerson is a member of the California State Senate. And so I want to speak with you about our prisons in the state of California. As you know, the U.S. Supreme Court in May of 2011 ruled that the prisons were inhumane, they were meting out cruel and unusual punishment, and they ordered that our prison population drop by about 38,000 around 2013. Here we are in 2013. So the governor had a plan passed that's known as Realignment. Could you explain that plan for us?
The goal of realignment, and it's been very challenging,
Right.
was to take individuals from state prisons and put them back in local communities,
Right.
in county jails, in facilities such as halfway houses,
Right.
and those types of programs.
And under the plan, individuals convicted of what we know as the three nons, non-sexual, non-violent, non-serious, would serve their time in county jails rather than state prisons. And generally, we were looking at sentences 3 years and under. The view was counties could handle that. At a certain level, they were only incarcerating 1 year and under, but they could bump up to 3 years and under. What we know, though, in the last year and a half or so, is that as a result of enhancements and adjustments, that some prisoners are getting 10, 15, 20-year sentences and going to county jails.
Well, we even have a case out of Los Angeles where they've been sentenced to 44 years. And if it was inhumane in the prison system, it's really inhumane in a local county jail.
They simply are ill-equipped. I mean, they don't have medical services that are required of a long-term visitor.
And our biggest fear was that the state had been sued on healthcare issues and mental health issues. And that
we're under receivership now.
And local counties had less of health care or mental health care in their facilities. So now we're starting to see local counties being sued. Riverside County has just been, a suit has been filed against them.
And they're already under federal court order.
And they're under federal court order as well. So it's a difficult problem. We didn't have the infrastructure in place when we went into the realignment. And I think the federal court didn't give adequate time for this all to be put into place.
But we are moving forward. We may or may not hit that target of, I think it's 130,000 or whatever it may be that we have to drop to,
136 or something.
Whatever
like
it is.
Yeah.
That being said, you do have a bill pending that would look at that 3-year cutoff. What do you tell us about that bill?
Senate Bill 225 is for more than 3 years of sentence should be in a state prison, not in a local
regardless
county.
Of whether it's a non.
That's
what are those
correct.
Three nons?
Yeah. Because of the lack of beds placements in local county facilities, as well as the lack of necessary health and mental health programs in local county
Are you
jails.
concerned, though, that even if that number may be small, and I understand it would be, that would increase the state prison population and we would be at risk of being in contempt of the Supreme Court order?
Yeah, well, there is that problem, but I think we need to look at going back to the federal court and asking for a waiver, because I think when inmates don't get the care they need in a local county jail, that's worse than having a slight overcrowding in the state prison system. So I think we can work that out.
We also know that unfortunately so many of our inmates suffer from mental disorders. We think about the recent rash of mass killings in Connecticut, Milwaukee, Denver, wherever it may be. And of course, not every prisoner is a mass killer, but we do have a gap in mental health services.
We absolutely do.
And so that gap, some could argue, is exacerbated when individuals are serving time in county lockup where they don't have the health services that we discussed, including mental health services.
Yeah, and that's my Senate Bill 226 is for the mentally disordered inmates to have them go back to a state prison and have an evaluation for mental illness issues, and then they're diagnosed and treated prior to being released into county facilities.
So would this be upon release, right before they're about to be released from counties, or would this be upon entry into the county?
Either way, because
we'll see.
Yes, and so it could be that inmates that have slipped through the the system and have not gotten adequate mental health issues, they should be diagnosed and treated prior to being released.
So how will the counties determine whether an offender or a convict should be sent to the state for evaluation? Do we know yet? Or is this to be determined?
Well, in many cases, they have a mental health evaluation when they're arrested and going through the process, and then those cases should go to a state institution for proper treatment first.
I want to speak with you about another aspect of healthcare, and that deals with the lack of doctors in our state, and most specifically in the Inland Empire. You're a dentist yourself. You represent significant portions of the Inland Empire. Could you give us a sense of how arguably severe the shortage of doctors and specifically primary care physicians are in Inland California?
It's a huge problem. I think the national average is that there's 80 physicians for every 100,000 population. In the inland Southern California area, we have 40 physicians for every 100,000. So we have twice the deficit
literally.
Of the national average. And it's a critical problem because we're going into the Affordable Care Act where more people will come into the system and we have fewer providers to take care of that.
And the goal of the Affordable Care Act is to put people into primary care practices so they don't go to the emergency room. And if there aren't enough primary care physicians, what happens? They wind up in the emergency room.
They do, and that's the most expensive health care that we have.
But there's good news. And I know you have been a fighter for this good news, and that's UCR Medical is opening in the fall.
They're opening with 50 students, and that is good news. We still have a funding problem from the state of California.
And let's talk about that, sir, because last year you had been fighting to get funding for UCR Med. It didn't happen. Accreditation was denied at first. Chancellor White was able to create a scheme that allowed funding to come in, not pejorative, but a funding formula. But now it looks like you, Senator Roth, Assemblyman Medina, you're putting a coalition together.
We are. The proposals that Assemblyman Medina and Senator Roth have is for a one-time funding of $15 million. That's okay. I'm going to support that. The biggest thing is we need to make certain that the University of California is fully supportive, and that's an ongoing funding stream.
It's interesting you mentioned that because the UC system is saying, no, the money should come out of the general fund, and the state of California is saying, no, the money should come out of the money we give you from our general fund. You have a budget, and that's where it should come from.
Well, all the other medical schools in California come out of the UC budget, and so I think that's the appropriate place it should be. The University of California has put it in their budget over the last 3 or 4 years, so the governor's the one who's taken it out.
Right.
And the critical need is, as you mentioned, the Affordable Care Act is going to go into effect January 1, 2014, and we don't have the infrastructure in place to make the system work. I had some questions about the Affordable Care Act. Of course, it was a federal program, but I had some questions that we're not prepared to provide the services that they're going to require us to provide.
Right.
And so it's now our responsibility to figure out a way to make it work.
We need to. So under the bill, which I understand did pass out of the Assembly, which is the first step. I mean, at least it got out of the Assembly, or the Assembly Committee, I should say.
It was a policy committee, and now goes to the Appropriations Committee.
It's a one-time fix, like you said.
It's a one-time $15 million.
So what, do we do this every year now?
Well, that's my problem with this approach, and I think if we can get the University of California to put it in their budget, the accrediting agencies want to see ongoing or continuing funding for a medical school.
Right.
They don't want to see one-time money and then it goes away.
Okay. Well, good luck. We hope it moves forward. His name is Bill Emmerson. He's a member of the California State Senate. I'm Brad Pomerance. This is Charter California Edition. Welcome back to Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest now, Andy Melendrez. He is a member of the Riverside City Council, and right inside his district is UC Riverside. Right. And you must be so proud and so excited that this fall we will see 50 medical students walk on to the UCR medical campus.
It's about time, don't you think? We've been talking about it a long time.
No doubt about it. It's been a long time coming. But there are still challenges. There are still issues that you're dealing with, and that has focused upon state funding.
Yes, yes.
As you know, in 2000, we were supposed to have our first class in 2012. Yeah. That didn't happen because there was no state funding.
Right.
Former Chancellor Tim White had to, rejigger the formula to get the accreditation.
Right.
What can you tell us about the state funding side?
Well, first of all, I think it's so important to give a lot of credit to Chancellor White and also Dean Oles, who is the Dean of the Medical School. They have done an amazing job in getting the funding that they need to get this program moving.
The initial accreditation.
Yes, and right now I'll tell you, Senator Roth and Assemblyman Medina are doing all they can to move this project forward.
So they're new members of the legislature.
On the second day, they were out there putting forth those bills.
I interviewed Senator Roth right after his election. I said, what's your goal? What's your priority for this year? UCR Med. That was the first thing he said without even blinking.
Right.
I know Senator Emmerson, who we just spoke with, has been a huge proponent of UCR Med. He actually is a dentist. So no doubt. But there is news as it relates to state funding. A bill has been submitted.
Yes. By Assemblyman Medina. He submitted it. It has gotten out of committee.
That's progress.
Yeah, that's better than what we've had in the past, but yeah, it has gotten out of committee.
And so what that bill would do is provide, is it $15 million a year, or is it just $15 million for 1 year?
It's $15 million a year, as I understand it.
That is pivotal.
Yes.
That's why the accrediting committee said no the first time around, because there was no revenue source.
Correct.
But here's the rub. As I understand it, there is still a war going on between the state of California as the state of California and the UC system. That what the state is saying is, let the UC system, from its budget that we give to you, pay this $15 million. What the UC system is saying, no, let it come out of the general fund.
Yeah, well, what are they doing with other medical schools? I think that's a question we need to ask.
Do we know? Where does that, like UCSF, UCLA, where does that money come from?
Exactly, let's ask them. Where is that money coming from? Are they providing funding to those schools? And if so, why them and not UCR?
From what bucket? Do you know the answer yet?
I don't know the specific answer, but I think that's a good question to be asking people right about now.
And I do want to get a sense from you why this region so desperately needs UCR Med now and into the future. Give us a sense of the crisis that the Inland Empire is facing in terms of medicine and doctors.
And I'll give some generalities about numbers. Generally when you talk about a general practitioner, you usually have about 60 to 70 general practitioners per 100,000.
Okay.
We're hitting 40.
Wow.
We're way below. We're about a third below everybody else. So we are in dire need just of in the general practitioner. We also have the general. We have psychiatry. Things we don't think about like psychiatry,
which is important. Given what has happened in Newtown and Milwaukee and Denver. Mental health is key.
Sure.
And what's most distressing when I hear about the dearth of primary care physicians is if you can't find a primary care physician, where do you go? The emergency room.
Right.
And how much more expensive is that?
A lot more expensive.
Hugely more expensive.
Yes.
What about the economic impact of UCR Med? Because as we know, the Inland Empire has had a tough few years. I understand it's coming back, and that's great news. But UCR Med could play a significant role in the recovery.
Right.
How?
Well, first of all, the first thing we think about is bringing new companies in. But where UCR, I think, can have its immediate impact is in their students and how those students go out and provide medical services to the community. That's extremely important. There was a program that LULAC put on 2 weeks ago.
LULAC is the Latino. Please.
Yes.
Latino, is it elected officials?
United. Excuse me?
Is it Latino elected officials?
No, it's a LULAC, We'll
It's
get back
an
to
organization
that in just a second.
for-
I need to get at my point.
Go.
My point
Shut
is
me
that
up.
they had hundreds of people coming for free medical care. Medical checkups, dental checkup. It's because there's such a lack of those, not so much of those services, but so many people do not have insurances. And with this new, the new medical programs that are coming out through the federal government, the things that UCR is training their students to do will fill those gaps.
And it's interesting that the medical school's opening just as the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, is going to be implemented. And as you know, the state of California has agreed to accept the federal dollars for Medi-Cal expansion.
Correct.
And for better or for worse, Latinos will benefit from that. I mean, immigrant communities generally, first, second generation, may face challenges. And so the timing is pretty strong.
Yes.
The timing is pretty strong. I have heard a criticism, though, and the criticism runs like this. Although it's nice that we're opening UCR Med, the economic benefits are overstated, or when they come, it will be years down the line. How would you respond to that?
Well, we have an immediate need in the state of California. We have a doctor shortage. We know we have a doctor shortage. And through UCR Medical School, we can start addressing that need and bring, first of all, when you have a medical school in the area, you're going to bring new money, or you're going to bring new people into our community. And I can tell you, UCR has had an overwhelming response to their medical school, with several students wanting to get in. Otherwise, maybe these students would have never even thought about coming to Riverside.
The other issue is that, like you said, we have a dearth here in the Inland Empire. How do we make sure, I mean, we can't force them, that these graduates will stay in the Inland Empire?
Well, one of the things that we can do, and things that I know that the UCR is going to be doing, is that they're going to start integrating the students with local facilities, local medical facilities. Yes, there'll be a Riverside Regional Hospital, Riverside Community Hospital, Kaiser. And obviously, when you start gaining those relationships with the local hospitals and staying here for any length of time,
internships, residencies, fellowships,
and you actually become integrated with our community. And for people that are not familiar with Riverside, I'll tell you, most of the people that have moved here have come and stayed here.
It is charming. Yeah. It is a very charming community. And I'm not sure if you know this, I recently learned it. They're accepting, UCR Med, 50 students. 25 of them, I believe, come directly from UCR undergrad. I don't know if that's just for the first year or if that's a program they intend to keep. Do you know?
Well, I can't be sure, but I will tell you that it has been the commitment of Chancellor White when he was here, and the commitment of Dean Oles, that they are going to be working with local individuals, individuals that have lived here, that are living here, so that they want to stay here when they've completed the medical school.
You mentioned Chancellor White, Chancellor Tim White.
Yes.
He's not our chancellor anymore. I say our because I was such a fan of his at UCR. He has moved on to become the chancellor of the entire Cal State University system, and we wish him only the best. Are you concerned that without his leadership, because he really, I mean, look, I'm just looking at it from the outside, but I mean, he really was the driving force.
He left a great roadmap for UCR to follow. And one thing about strong leadership is that you leave a good roadmap for those that are going to be coming in later to follow. And there was full support for the UCR Medical School. There's full support for improving their athletics. There's full support for improving their academics. He left a tremendous roadmap for all of us to follow.
And I know Dean Oles, Richard Oles, I mean, he's a fighter. He is, you don't want to mess with him.
No.
I mean, he actually is an infectious disease specialist, tropical diseases, so he has taken out things much worse than we can all imagine.
He is committed, he is passionate, and I know that he's going to make this.
I want to thank you so much for joining us, Annie Melendrez. When we come back, we're going to be speaking with two individuals who are looking to help individuals in Haiti, medical care, life care. He's Annie Melendrez. I'm Brad Pomerance. This is Charter California Edition. Welcome back to Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. I'm glad you're with us to meet two really remarkable people doing remarkable work in our region. Vanessa Vizard, we know her, of course, she's been on our program before. Josiah Bruny, whose brother was on our program, and I looked at you, I said, you look familiar, and then I realized when I looked at your last name, it's your brother that I had met, and I want to thank you both for joining us. Josiah, I want to start with you and talk about how, through an after-school program called Music Changing Lives, which is in Redlands, California, how that turned into support for your home country.
Yes, thank you so much,
Please.
Brad, for having us. So
Yeah,
basically in 2010, our kids were just finishing a mural dedicated to Martin Luther King called Common Vision for Changing Lives when the earthquake hit.
In Haiti. We're talking about Haiti.
And so our kids were so impelled to help. They just were like wanting to collect relief items, things of that nature.
And if we can, and we'll talk to you in a moment,
Sure.
Vanessa, you were not born in Haiti, but some of your siblings were, your parents are Haitian, you still have aunts and uncles there. You have been back to Haiti several times. Really give us a sense of how dramatic the pain and suffering is. I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but even 3 years later, I mean, this country is really suffering.
Yeah, you're talking about at least 200,000 people plus dying. So at the time when I went into Haiti first in 2010, I mean, it was devastating. You're seeing some graphic things that I've never been able to get out of my mind yet. The good thing is that over the 3 years, there are some good people coming in and helping the country.
I have several friends who have gone in, some of them very high-profile individuals. Maria Bello, who's an actress, she's an old friend, she's been there. Morana Tias, of course, she's an actress, she's been there. I don't know Sean Penn, but he is practically moved into Haiti. Vanessa, how did you get involved?
So actually when our efforts started in 2010, when the quake first happened, we started filling 3 40-foot containers, and Josiah and I have worked on some stuff in the community in the past.
Sure.
You know, I felt compelled to help. So we filled those containers, and since then we've just been working on our efforts.
You have not stopped, and that's the key, and that's what I want to talk about today, because you now have an organization that's called Love for Haiti. And you, the both of you, I mean, the sky is the limit in terms of the depth of your feeling, support, care, and desire to heal that nation. Let's talk about a village that's called
Leogan.
Leogan. I speak some French, but there's the Creole in there, and I thought I'll just let Josiah do it. Tell us about this village, which I understand is about an hour outside of Port-au-Prince, either of you?
Yeah, it's about an hour and a half outside of Port-au-Prince North. This is where the epicenter of the earthquake really took place. Literally.
Okay.
So 90% of this village was destroyed. I'm talking hospitals, schools, everything is like literally gone, and that's where we're focusing on. We met a young lady there by the name of Mary Salvanair, and she has about 70 kids that she was taking care of at the time.
These children presumably orphans.
Orphans.
I mean, we know the death toll was, what, 350,000?
Plus,
I mean,
yeah.
huge. Yeah, please, Vanessa.
It was over estimated 220,000 deaths.
Yeah, right.
And at the time there was about 370,000 orphans, and now there is estimated 750,000 orphans in Haiti.
Because people have died since, and people have fled, whatever it is.
From the disaster itself, and then from disease afterwards.
So your goal is very specific, and it's trying to help those children, trying to build an orphanage that would really be an oasis for these children. Tell us about that.
So the goal is to have a sustainable compound where they have a clinic, home, schools, everything right on the facility there to where they literally didn't have to leave. We want to be able to bring in earth growing, where they make their own vegetables, teach them how to start their own businesses, microloans, and all the aspects in the gamut.
So it's fully integrated. It's not just an orphanage, because
it would be a sustainable village.
Right, because ultimately they will want to sustain themselves. I mean, they don't want to have to rely on the resources, the largesse of friends throughout the hemisphere. And so what's amazing to me, and you know, this is a blessing and a curse, the budget is only $200,000.
For the first phase.
But still, I mean, that's just not a lot of money in the scheme of things.
Absolutely.
If you told me the budget was $2 million, I would have said, okay. But labor is cheap, materials are cheap. you can do this.
Absolutely.
You can do this. And for our friends who may live in the Inland Empire watching today, you have an event coming up.
We do.
Where
It's June 8th.
Right.
It's going to be at South Coast Winery and Resort out in Temecula.
which is beautiful.
It
Which is beautiful, no
yeah.
doubt.
We have individual tickets and sponsorships available. So we welcome people to, we're just in the final stages of planning the event.
Sure.
So
I'm sure if
we're
you're planning
excited to be
it will
able
be
to announce
quite
it.
an extravaganza. And I'm sure if Josiah is there, it's going to be just ugly. So it will be great. Is Wanji going to come?
No, possibly. We'll
Possibly.
invite him out.
Yeah. What you may not know is both Josiah and his brother Wanji are. Is the word rapper? I mean, that has so many different connotations. You're a musician.
Musician, hip hop artist.
I like that better. Hip hop
better,
artist.
you know.
So as you mentioned, Vanessa, phase one is the orphanage.
Right.
You have more phases. You guys are non-stoppable.
Well,
So-
that's the building of the sustainable
Right.
village itself. So that's our community center, our school, our medical facility, and then really teaching the individuals there in order to sustain, teaching them the work. So when we build the orphanage, it's going to be an Adobe orphanage. They'll go through an apprenticeship program, learn the skills so they can not only rebuild that orphanage, but take those skills elsewhere and rebuild within the village, within the country. And then again, we have 150 acres to build on, so we'd like to have sustainable crops where they can harvest their own food
Right.
and make a living, but also feed themselves.
So beyond the $200,000 for phase one, you still be raising money. I mean, this
Absolutely.
seems like a mission, a lifelong mission for you. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not done.
Yeah.
You're absolutely not done. I want to talk to you, Josiah, about this because, I mean, look, you know, we're born in America. You know, you were born in America as well, but you know, the connection to Haiti has got to be really strong for you. You have aunts there, uncles there. What does it mean to you that you are able to help?
It's a beautiful situation, Brad, because you're in a position where you have a part of the American dream that's
Right.
instilled into you, and then the Haitian dream as well that's
Right.
instilled into you, that unity is power.
And it's interesting, I've spoken with a few of these people I mentioned before, and they talk about the Haitian people as just, I wish I could remember the words they use, but vibrant, loving, friendly, you know, eyes that light up. I mean, just a happy people that are not defeated.
No.
Right.
That
I
are
mean,
not
you're
defeated.
thinking about like people that are living in tent cities right now,
Right.
and there's still no chaos, there's no wars,
That
there's
is
no
interesting.
fights,
That is
you know,
interesting,
there's
right.
still love. There's people there that are just, they've lost everything, and they still seem to have this sense of humor.
But what's so tragic about it is Haiti still remains the poorest nation
In the Western Hemisphere.
in the Western Hemisphere, even with the Dominican Republic on that same island, which struggles, but not like Haiti.
Right.
And so, you know, it couldn't happen in a worse place. Are things getting better? I just feel as if all we see is the misery.
Yeah.
But my sense from you, from Maria, and it's not all bad.
Yeah, it's not. And the best part is we just took David Ono from Channel 7 News out there with this.
ABC 7 in
Yeah,
Los Angeles.
to see
Right.
what we're actually accomplishing. And they came out and did a whole 7-day story with us, and to see that there is change being made. And so that's the beautiful part. Like we said, there's several stars that have committed themselves to it. There's several just individuals
Sean
that
Penn,
are people
I mean,
that,
he's unbelievable
Yeah.
what he's doing there.
yeah.
All the work that he's doing.
And then people we don't know, you know,
Right.
people that aren't in the star, like churches.
Oh, and that's the key. I don't mean
I
to
mean,
just mention
yeah.
names that are known, but
Right.
you know,
So,
it is what it is. How can we help?
Well, you can go to our website, which is www.loveforhaiti.org.
And it's LUV.
LUVFORHAITI.org. Go to our donate page, make a donation. You can contact myself, which is Vanessa, VIZARD, PR.com. So Vanessa at VizardPR.com.
We're going to find you. All of it will be on the screen.
And-
thank you both. Thank you for what you're doing, and best of luck. I know that this orphanage is going to become a reality. I know
Well,
it.
thank you so much, Brad.
Yeah, I'm Brad Pomerance. This is Charter California Edition.